Okay. So I want to thank you for being here for Hormones to Harmony, the Menopause Wellness Series. I'm Denise Stegall. I am the longevity concierge for midlife women. Most of us midlife women are in some phase of menopause. Most of us don't know it until it kind of smacks us right upside the head, right? And so why I like to do this program, why I decided to start this was because as a midlife person, actually didn't know my midlife started at 35 to 37. I started to go through what I now know as perimenopausal symptoms, and quite severely. And at that time, I wasn't getting any answers. Doctors were poo-pooing me. Even experts who were supposed to be menopause specialists really weren't there to help me because I wasn't quote unquote menopausal. No, I wasn't the typical person in menopause. I wasn't. I was perimenopause. I was 37. They were waiting for me to be in my 50s before they would actually help me. And that was really, really frustrating. So luckily for me, I did find some help after a lot of crying, a lot of research, spending a lot of money on supplements and programs and all this stuff that we see online when we're desperate for anything to work. We'll try anything, right? Been there, done that, ladies?
Yep.
So that's why I decided to really move forward in my coaching business and really focus on midlife because there's so many things that we're struggling with. Yes, the hormones, yes, the weight gain, yes, all of the things. But then, of course, there's the empty nest syndrome that lots of us are going through, not me particularly, but there's the empty nest. It's the who am I now and what am I going to do in this next phase of life? So that is to me an essential part of our lives, this midlife. They call it midlife, but truly, this is a long phase, right? So I'd like to basically just quickly go around the room. I'll have you introduce yourselves. Who are you? Where are you? And then we'll go from there. And I'm going to talk about the top 10 or 10 things that no one ever told you about menopause. So Jean, if you would, because you're there on my left, if you would start, please.
To excuse me, Jean Gallagher. I am in Auburn, California. And what else am I giving you?
Whatever you want to tell me, whatever you
Okay.
want to tell us.
All right, I'll give you two things. I am a financial advisor by trade, so I teach people about how their money works and how to bring some clarity to the confusion that happens when you talk about your finances. And then I also host a podcast, Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. And Denise is a regular contributor to the podcast.
Thank you. It's always so much fun. Laura, if you would, please tell us who you are, where you are, and what you do.
I'm in Sarasota, Florida, and I also do functional medicine. I have a functional medicine practice, and I do a lot of stuff for women, but I was interested in this because I just thought, just learning from other people who are doing similar things is always really nice. And I don't do so much menopause anymore, but I did just take I'm about to start a continuing education course that's more about nutrition and hormones and stuff like that. So I just was really interested in, your take on what's going on. And I also just went through menopause myself and it was absolute hell. So yeah.
Yep, we get it. Thank you for being here. Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren Yellen Weinberg. I work as a coach, which is how I know Denise. That was one of her experts in Living Healthy list. And now I'm an empowerment coach. I help people, especially women, live with purpose and passion, vision and courage. And I feel like I've been struggling with this issue since my mid 40s, so maybe like 15 years. Through it doesn't mean anything to me. I feel like I'm still in it. And I have chosen medical support. But I know from firsthand how important my diet is in affecting these symptoms. So I know Denise will have a lot to say about that. And I'm really interested to hear the other things she said that could help me still ameliorate some of these crazy symptoms.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I think what I'll do is I'll go through kind of the 10 things and there's so many more. This is just kind of like the first 10 of like 100 things that no one ever told you about menopause, right? So I'm going to share my screen. Potentially, I'm going to share my screen and get to, it's just a quick, actually, it's a quick presentation that I decided to put together last night because it's kind of fun to actually look at something rather than just my smiling face. Okay, so I'm going to, so I have this on Canva, so I'm not always really great at making one thing link to the other, so bear with me if you would. Okay, oh, there's me. You can see me, that's what I look like. So hormones to harmony.
You can't
the
see your
menopause
share.
Oh, you can't see my share because I didn't share it yet. Thank you. I can see me. There you go. Can you see me now? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So this is the banner that people saw on LinkedIn and on social media to announce, Hormones and Harmony, the Menopause Wellness Series. This is something that I will do the first week of every month because it's not just a one and done. Menopause is not a one and done, as we're all experiencing, we're all talking about. So I think it's really important for us to have conversations because the challenge has always been for those of us that are going through and really, hopefully not just starting, but nobody ever talked about it. Our mothers didn't, our grandparents didn't. And so we're kind of left trying to figure it out on our own. Everyone's trying to figure it out on their own. So let's collectively support each other, answer each other's questions, and lift each other up. Because menopause is a long phase in life, post-menopause. We're going to live. So at my age, at 53, my estimated lifespan is 30 years, 30 plus, depending on which calculator you look at. So at 53, I'm supposed to live till I'm at least 83, 30 years. So 30 years postmenopausal. So just because menopause, I hit that menopause year, doesn't mean it's over. So let's get on, move forward and kind of talk about this a little bit. So 10 things no one ever told you about. So we went through the introduction. I'm going to tell you a little bit about 10 of the, like I said earlier, 120 million maybe things that people never told us about menopause. We'll open for a Q&A and then a quick closing. So number 10. So we're going to go backwards. So 10 to 1. It's not just about hot flashes. I mean, that's the first thing we really notice, right? That's the first most disruptive part of menopause. But there's so many other symptoms that nobody told us about. So with a hot flash, then all of a sudden you get these cold flushes too. You get hot and you're throwing the covers off, but now you're shivering cold because you're sweating and you're freezing. So you go from one extreme to the other. Tinglings in your fingers and toes. Have you ever experienced that? I have a friend who thought she was, thought she had MS. Well, it turned out that she was menopausal, and they were working her up for multiple sclerosis because she had this tingling in her fingers and toes. Headaches. I've been prone to headaches my whole life. But you know what? In the last 10, 15 years, they have gotten, they're less frequent, but they're more extreme. And then, of course, there's certain things like tinnitus in your ear, ringing in your ear, change of taste in your mouth, like things that you used to like to eat, you found enjoyable. All of a sudden, they don't taste the same. They don't taste good anymore. So that's number 10. It's not just about the hot flash. Number 9. I love this one because nobody talks about this one. Unexpected skin sensations. I remember years and years ago, my aunt saying to my mom, "It just feels like I'm itchy all the time. Like there's bugs like crawling on my skin." And I thought, well, maybe she's just got dry skin. I mean, what did I know? I was a kid. But it turns out that because of menopause, the reduced collagen production now in our bodies, there's a lot of things that are depleting, our estrogen, our progesterone, our collagen, all of the things that keep us feeling and looking youthful. So that's what nobody talks about. Anybody heard of this one? The skin crawling? Yeah, that's another one. So number 8, menopause is different for every woman. Each one of us is going to experience something completely different. My sister's just a couple of years younger than me. I'm the older one. I started at 37 experiencing menopausal symptoms. She's just now at 51 starting to notice certain things. But we're sisters. We came from the same mother, same father. Why is hers so different? Nobody really knows the answer to that. So the way you manage and navigate menopause is going to be unique to you. So there's no one size fits all, no miracle cure or miracle pill, right? But with the right tools and information, and this was the piece for me that when I was struggling with perimenopausal symptoms at 37, this was the challenge I was finding. There was not any good information from true sources and people that wanted to help me, not just sell me something, right? So important. So remember that your best friend, you and your best friend could be the same age and potentially going through menopause, but you have different, having different experiences. Though many of the tools may be beneficial for both of you. Number 7, mood changes are common. Okay, we kind of know that, but they're often overlooked, especially in perimenopause. Now, many times a woman in perimenopause, now say she's 35, maybe she still has a couple of young children, maybe she's just had a child, because women in certain areas of the country that I know have waited to have kids until they were a little bit older. But now they're 35, 36, sometimes even I have a cousin who was 32 when she started to experience this. But her mood swings and anxiety was so overwhelming that she went to her doctors, from what I understand, and they all wanted to give her an antidepressant because she had mood swings and she was depressed. Well, she wasn't depressed. So she did go on an antibiotic. Sorry, wrong word. Antidepressant medication. And sort of she felt different, but most of the time she didn't. So what did they want to do? They wanted to give her something else to boost that antidepressant. Well, the challenge really was it wasn't depression, it wasn't clinical depression. She was struggling because her hormones were out of balance. Number 6, weight gain is almost inevitable without lifestyle change. Think about it. Your hormones are changing. I call it the menobelly, where you kind of look, all of a sudden you have this tire around your midsection, and that all has to do with hormones. Yes, our metabolism is changing. All of these hormones are changing inside our body. Potentially we're not exercising as much. Maybe we're not paying attention to our nutrition as much. So weight gain, when you look at most women in their 50s, most women, not all, they all kind of have this body shape, right? A little bit thick in the middle. And again, it's something that happens because of hormones, but it's not something that you have to live with. It is something that we need to pay attention to. And then with diet changes, exercise changes, even sleep changes, with lifestyle changes, you can reverse the menobelly, as I love to call it, and feel good, look good. And of course, it's more than just looking good in your clothes. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But it really is about being the most healthful person you can be. And we know when there is extra when there's extra weight, that's extra weight on our joints, that's not healthy for our heart or our cardiovascular system. So again, it's almost inevitable, but if we can pay attention, we don't have to actually live with it, let's just say. Okay, number 5. You are losing bone density. You start losing bone density as soon as your hormones start to go completely wacky and you start losing your sex hormones, because they're more than just sex hormones, by the way. So losing bone density, what does that mean? Why do we care? When we have brittle bones, I always think of brittle bones kind of look like Swiss cheese. When you look at a bone on a skeleton, it's pretty solid. When they look at a bone that has that's lost bone density and looks brittle, there are actually holes in it. It's much more porous, and because of that, you're susceptible to fracture, to break. Osteoporosis is very common in Caucasian women and Asian women. I know this for sure in my family. We are at a higher risk. So we need to absolutely pay attention to bone density and what we're doing to make sure that we're not losing that bone density. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Number 4, many people may know this. You are at risk for heart disease. Did you know women who are over 50 are 50% more likely to have a heart attack or die from a heart attack than a man of the same age? Why? One, our hormones are definitely participating. But also, women don't think that they're having heart attacks at 50. Our symptoms are different. And more often than not, as I mentioned before, you go to the doctor or you go to the hospital and they kind of think, oh, well, it's indigestion because your symptoms are so different. So one of the things that is so important is to know your body and to be an advocate for your own health. You're getting weak, not weak in spirit, weak in muscle. Because muscle loss, along with bone loss, is accelerated as estrogen levels drop. And truly, when you think about when you were young, you could kind of pick anything up, right? Really easily. You could pick yourself up off the floor. How many people do you know, if they're sitting on the floor, can't actually get up without, really struggling? Or how many people do you know who struggle just getting out of a chair? They can't just put their feet on the floor and stand up. They need to lean on the chair or lean on a table. It's because they're losing muscle mass. The only way we can gain muscle mass is, one, obviously paying attention to what you're eating, but muscle mass needs to have weight training and resistance training in order to stop the muscle loss, but really also to gain muscle loss. Again, this isn't just about looking good. Of course, we want to look good, but it really is about having the strength to do the things that we want to do in life, whether it's walking or hiking, playing with the grandkids, whatever it may be. This is something that I'm going to flip in a minute to another screen, because I think this is really important. Progesterone begins to decline at age 35. Who knew that? Anybody? Age 35. We think when we're 35, we're doing great. We're robust and everything is great. Yeah, except your progesterone levels start to decrease. So who cares? We care. Why? Sleep, depression. This is one of these challenges, I mentioned before, with mood swings. Mood swings and depression are different. But as you're losing your progesterone, the risk of depression does increase. Progesterone elevates your mood. So not just takes you out of feeling depressed, but actually makes you feel happy, makes you feel good. This one I love, prevents sugar cravings. Anybody get those? Been there, done that? As progesterone is decreasing, your reserves for those cravings of sugar are going away. And of course, this one I did not understand for a long time, but it actually helps with your just kind of everyday aches and pains. And then progesterone and estrogen, which I'll talk about in a second, they're like kissing cousins. They need each other. They go together. So we're losing progesterone. We tend not to start losing estrogen right at that age. We start to lose that a little bit later. Again, depending on the woman. Oops, that's the same slide, just look different. There we go. Number 2. So we think of estrogen as something for our sexual health, for having children. We also know that estrogen is cardioprotective. But there are, this slide says there are over 300 functions. I read an article the other day that said that it has over 400 functions in your body. So let's think about this. If we're losing our estrogen, and say now I'm 53, I am 53, I'm 53 years old. My estrogen levels are pretty depleted. Now I am taking a bioidentical supplement, which helps with my hot flashes and night sweats. But most importantly, I know in my research and all of the training and courses that I have taken that estrogen is absolutely essential for my heart health. Also, bone health. I mentioned that your bone density is decreasing with your estrogen decreasing. Your central nervous system is also affected by estrogen. Urinary tract. How many women, as they've gotten older, have urinary tract infections, like recurring urinary tract infections? My mother's been struggling with this recently. Lack of estrogen, lack of, when you think of the estrogen, this actually does help when you're, when you have your cycle, and it helps the uterus to be prepared to have, to receive an egg and fertilize it. And if not, it flushes away, right? But there is, with the lack of estrogen, there isn't any of that protection anymore. And your uterus kind of atrophies. Think of it as, a nice grape that shrivels into a raisin. That's kind of what could happen to your uterus if you're not, if you don't have estrogen. Couple of other things, of course, I mentioned heart, skin, hair, breast, pelvic muscles. But here's a kicker: brain health. Now, we always hear brain health, gut health goes together. Brain health and estrogen health? Interesting. Something that people never talk about. We only ever talk about estrogen when it comes to hot flashes or having babies. Does a lot more than that. And then finally, this last one. Symptoms can last for years and years and years, depending again on the woman. I was watching a program the other day, and this one was from, I think, 2012 or 2014. It was called Hot Flash Havoc. And it was Goldie Hawn was one of the presenters, and they were interviewing certain women, different ages, and there was a woman who was in her 80s, who was still taking a hormone supplement, and she said that for a handful of years, her doctor said, you're getting older now. You don't have any symptoms anymore. You probably don't need the hormone therapy. And so she listened to her doctor, and she said, okay, fine. And she said she was able to do it for about 3 months. And after that, she went back to the doctor and said, I want my hormones back. She says, I don't feel good. I have no energy. My hair is thinning. She's like, I just don't feel like myself. She was so used to this constant feeling good, kind of like, we always talk about like those feeling good hormones. Estrogen really is one of those feeling good hormones, because it helps us to feel good in all of these areas, all of these systems in our life. So again, the choices you make today are absolutely going to help you manage and navigate this next phase. We talk about menopause, we think it's just, menopause, it comes and goes and it's done. We of course know now that that's not the case. We have the perimenopause years, which could be, for me, it was 37, 47, 48, 49, 13 years. Wait a minute, 37, 40, yeah, 13 years of perimenopause. That was a lot of fun, right? And then that menopause is officially, it's one day of your life. It's the 12-month anniversary of your last period. One day. So now, what happens the next day? You are in postmenopause for the rest of your life. And symptoms can actually, you can still have symptoms. I have a friend who's in her 60s who still has hot flashes. Now, I don't know if she's on any kind of therapy, or I've never had that conversation with her, but she's in her 60s. She's been through menopause. But as a postmenopausal woman, she is still experiencing these symptoms. So I want to, let me just get to the last slide, I guess. Just want real quick, I'm going to recap, and then I want to show you one other really cool slide, and then I want to open for conversation. It's not just about hot flashes. Menopause is unique to you. You will experience mood changes. Weight gain, not inevitable. Bone loss is an issue. Heart disease, you are at a higher risk for heart disease, stroke, heart attack, atherosclerosis, as your estrogen levels drop. Muscle loss. Again, your progesterone starts to decline when you're 35, which affects your sleep, it affects your mood, and so many other things. I'll show you the slide in a second. And then estrogen, of course, we're losing estrogen. Well, we kind of knew that, but nobody told us about all of the other things that estrogen does. One of the pieces of research that I'm doing right now is estrogen effect on thyroid. There's so many women that I know, older women. Now, 4 of my aunts, I don't know about the 5th one, on my mother's side of the family, an aunt on my father's side of the family, and several other women of their age group within their 70s and 80s have been on a thyroid medication since they were in their 60s. And they all are under the belief that it just happens as you get older. Your thyroid just, it just stops working properly. Is the thyroid not working properly, or is it because there's no estrogen that we know has these 300, potentially 400 different jobs in the body? Is that actually what's causing the thyroid to it's underactive thyroid, so not work properly? There is research there, and I just haven't spent enough time to speak about that completely. But with what we understand, there's absolutely a connection. And so the last piece, again, symptoms can last for years. So I'm going to stop this just for a quick moment and find this other PowerPoint. And it's just 3 slides. And this is, couldn't figure out how to get it from this presentation onto the new one. So let me go back here and I will share my screen again. All right, well, let me just pop here. Okay, now let me just go to this one. Okay, so progesterone. So there's a little symbol in the top right. That's the happy hormone cottage. This is something that I wholeheartedly the people at Happy Hormone Cottage, they were the people who were there for me, who helped me to understand what was going on and how they could then help me when I really started to go through the menopause phase. I was fortunate that I did find somebody after probably 2 years of searching to support me in perimenopause. I did find an herbal supplement that was fantastic, and it worked for most of those 13 years in perimenopause. When I started to get closer to that menopause time, it just didn't work anymore, and I needed help. I wasn't sleeping. My night sweats they didn't stop. I mean, at one point when it was at its worst, my hot sweats would start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and they would continue all night long. So you can imagine that affected my weight for sure, my sleep, my husband's sleep, my mood, my desire to exercise, my libido, all of those things. And so I am so thrilled that I was able to find the Happy Hormone Cottage that taught me really what's going on, that these kind of these top 10 or top 100 things that nobody ever tells you. So progesterone it produces not just your pregnancy, but it also is, I think I said this earlier, is kind of kissing cousins to estrogen. And very often, especially early on, when you are in perimenopause, your progesterone is dropping. You still have plenty of estrogen, but you just need a little bit of progesterone supplement, because let's take a look at all of these amazing things that progesterone does and what it protects against. I just mentioned this a minute ago, helps the thymus and the thyroid gland. I don't know all of the details, as I mentioned, but lack of progesterone is a challenge there. That is interesting. It improves memory. If you look, I think there's like 15 things listed that progesterone does. On the right side of the page here, this is what it protects us against. So why on earth would we not want to make sure that our hormones are balanced and that we have this protection, right? It protects against fibrocystic breasts, breast cancer, bulging veins, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, hot flashes. Hot flashes always pops out to me for some reason. It could be like somewhere really small on the page, but hot flashes kind of just literally flashes itself to me because I think maybe I'm scarred. But this slide here really shows that progesterone, if we're starting to lose this at 35 and we're going to live to 85, we're kind of screwed, right? We must really pay attention and find out what's going on in our body. We understand that we're losing, we're losing progesterone, we're losing our hormones, they're declining. But to what extent, we don't really know until we test. Sadly, our regular doctor will fight you on that. But luckily for us that there are many, many other physicians that are outside of traditional medicine that can support us. I'm going to pop to this one on estrogen. So this is, okay, estrogen performs over 300 tasks. And I mentioned kind of the big ones. It protects us against heart disease. It protects us against Alzheimer's and dementia. I didn't talk about that very much. Helps us decrease the risk of osteoporosis, improves cognitive function. That's quite a few things. Again, deficiency, what happens? Flashes, irregular periods, until you get to the point where you don't get them anymore. This one is for a lot of people, and this is probably part of the 100 things nobody told you. Painful sex due to lack of vaginal lubrication. I remember I went through this. Man, it really was not fun. And I didn't realize at the time that my estrogen levels and my progesterone levels as well were in the tank. I mean, totally in the toilet. So once I understood this, I was able to find a solution that worked for me. And, now, I mean, I'm a new person, absolutely new person. I'm just going to quickly show this to you guys, but I'm not going to talk. Whoops. No, I'm not going to show it to you, apparently. I haven't talked much about testosterone. Obviously, we know it is a sex hormone that we need. Yes, men have a lot more of it than we do, but we know that it still plays a role in bone density. It basically tells our osteoblasts to build new bone. So that's kind of important, right? We talked about bone density and the fact that we're losing bone density because of our hormone imbalances. But again, it impacts energy, bone density, heart, libido, memory recall, mood, motivation, all of these positive things. Now, when you think of the worst days going through perimenopause or menopause, your energy's low a lot of days, right? You have brain fog. Maybe you're not that motivated to do anything at all. Maybe sometimes getting out of bed is just a challenge. All of these things could potentially, potentially, I'm not a doctor, so I can't say that they do, but potentially they are related to your decline in hormones. So I am going to stop my share there and open for conversation. I know we talked, Lauren, I think you mentioned earlier, how does nutrition affect our how we manage menopause? We know no matter what you read, it always comes down to nutrition. First and foremost, we need to be giving our bodies I hate to just say food is fuel. There is a big part of that. We need the macronutrients. We need the micronutrients. As an older woman, a woman going through menopause, we need more protein than we ever thought we did. There's a reason why Boost and Sure are on the shelves at Walgreens and at all of the CVS's and the pharmacies around because older people are not eating enough protein, but this is an easy way for them to do that. Their doctors are saying to people like my mom, now my mom's 83. She's not eating enough protein. So make sure you have, drink this shake because it'll give you the protein. And that's good in a way because she's getting the protein, but it's not the type of protein that our body really, truly wants. Now, I know myself personally, I've always wanted to be a vegetarian. And I know Lauren well enough to know that she does a full month where she does vegan. And she sticks to it and she's amazing with it. I went through that. I went through vegetarian for a handful of years and my energy just wasn't there. Now, yes, as a vegetarian, you can get plenty of protein. Depending again on your body, it may not be enough. It may not be the right type of protein for you. Now, I never believed that I needed 100 grams of protein until I actually started getting 100 grams of protein. I was building muscle faster. I was recovering from workouts faster. I started to lose weight. Scratch my head. Hold on a minute. I'm eating more. How am I losing weight? So one of the things I think is so important to know is what worked back then, like 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, even last year for me, what worked then just don't work anymore. It's just, we're always evolving. And I think that's an important thing to understand is you're a different person, not to your core and your heart. You're always the same wonderful person you are, but your body is changing and its needs are changing. So my rule always is with my clients, eat real food, stick with real food first. As much as possible. I'm a realist. 80% of the time, if you're doing it 80% of the time, then you're good. Full disclosure, my two favorite foods in the world are pizza and donuts. I don't eat them often, but when I do eat them, I enjoy them, right? No guilt. Have a slice of pizza. It was really good. Move on. Have that slice of pizza with a really nice salad with lots of veggies, even better, right? So, I'd love to open questions, comments, thoughts.
Well, just to follow up on that month of veganism, what I noticed when I was first menopausal is that 2 weeks after I did that for a month, I would get a period. And so I knew that eating like that was shifting my hormones. And I don't fully understand the science behind it, but it clearly happened. And my hair would get thicker. That happened very quickly. Like there were changes. Now it's gotten much better since I was taking B12, but I didn't always feel great. doing it. And I think I was not getting enough protein. I really try hard to get enough protein now, but I'm also not eating grains during that time. It's also
Mhm.
a grain-free month. So it's really challenging to get enough protein. It's all the
Yeah.
beans and lentils, Um, but it does do stuff. And I lose that 5 pounds that I can't lose the rest of the year.
Mhm.
I think it's all the fiber. But
Potentially, Laura, I'd like to open that and as a functional medicine doctor, if you have a thought on that.
Yeah, as you said, like it's different for everybody. It's obviously the first thing I thought of when you said that, Lauren, was just that there's, there is hormones in some of the meat that we're eating, unfortunately. So that was my first thought, is that you're removing
although
those.
I'm organic all the
Yep.
time.
And so I don't know. That would be a really hard one to say. I would love to, like, over time hear like what else happens. The 5 pounds though, I mean, it definitely could be the fiber, but also like when you're not getting protein from animal protein, like you might just be losing weight. There's a lot of vegetarians who are underweight and a lot of vegans who are underweight, and it doesn't mean that they're not getting their nutrients other ways. But I think that's really interesting. I haven't heard that one. I think it's super interesting though.
Yeah, it is a
Absolutely.
fascinating thing.
Thank you both
Um,
for sharing that.
But what I was curious about is, and you mentioned it just as I was writing it down, like what, and I could ask both of you, I'm sure Laura understands this as well, is just no doctor, no gynecologist, and I've had difficulty with my HRT. I get weird side effects, the side effects that I used to get when I was premenstrual. And I'm wondering, like, nobody's ever tested my blood. Nobody's ever checked my levels. And I'm shocked by that. And then they just switched my HRT from a conjugated estrogen to estradiol, or yeah. And
Mhm.
then the doctor said, like, apologetically, but didn't follow it up. And I really didn't ask her too much about it, that it's very hard to get HRT with testosterone, meaning sounding like, oh, you should have it with testosterone, but I can't give it to you.
Yeah.
I definitely have some thoughts, but Laura, if you'd like to share your thoughts, please do.
What I was going to say is, have you ever done the Dutch test, Lauren?
No tests.
Okay, I would do the Dutch test.
That's a
And
Dutch test.
Denise, I don't know if you can order that for her, but the Dutch test it's a urine test, and it really tests metabolites and it tests the hormone levels in your urine. The reason that they can't do a blood test typically, this is even with a younger woman, is, the month is always fluctuating. So they might take your estrogen and testosterone at one time of the month. And even though you're menopausal, it's always fluctuating and it's not very reliable. So nowadays, even in functional medicine, a lot of practitioners have to kind of go with symptoms and then play this guessing game. Like for me, none of the creams worked with the HRT, but I did the patch, and I wish I would have done it 15 years ago. I had hot flashes for 12 years, literally all the time. Then I got on the patch and progesterone pill. Everything's gone. And it's like I'm aging backwards. I'm 53 and people were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "It's literally the estrogen." So it's very
Mhm.
individualized, but I would 100% order the Dutch test. And there's kind of a limited Dutch test and then an expanded. You should just get the expanded one time. It'll tell you so much information. And even the report that you get, even if you're not a practitioner, the report is unbelievable.
It's phenomenal.
So much
So,
information.
so this is how this was. So I took a Dutch test, and this is when I was with the Happy Hormone Cottage. And the only reason why I didn't stay with them is they can't send anything to Minnesota anymore. They don't have a license in Minnesota. So I'd have to go to Ohio, where they are, to get my medication. So it's a little far. So what happened when, and they're a small family practice, basically. Well, when they said to me, let's do your Dutch test and figure out what's going on, I had actually heard of the Dutch test once or twice before, but never through a medical doctor, because a medical doctor, this is just so out of their scope of practice. my Dutch test, so it obviously hormones, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, cortisol, adrenal function. I guess mine was the extended, and I'm kicking myself because the results are over there on the desk on the other side of the camera. When I looked at the results, now I did have a doctor at Happy Hormone Cottage who I talked to. But when I looked at them, I could read the results very easily on my own because the way they laid it out was exactly like your gas gauge in your car. Empty, full. And based on your age, it kind of had a little line where you kind of should be over here. Well, all of mine, as estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, were all in the empty category. Like I needed to fill my bucket like big time. And again, you're not filling it to the point where you're 20, right? But I needed to get it to at least to a woman my age to balance everything. And I absolutely love this test. And yes, my gynecologist here, another doctor had said to me, well, you can't really test because, it changes it's always changing. And we get that. We know that our hormones are fluctuating, depending on what time of the day. The Dutch test, I think, has you test 4 or 5 times during the day. So in the middle of the night, you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you go to the bathroom. And so it's a great tool for you to understand where you are, at this stage. Right. And then from there, you can kind of go on and say, look, this is what's happening. This is what I see this now, rather than going to the doctor and saying, okay, this is how I feel, fix it. Right. Gynecologist doesn't necessarily know how to fix it. They know HRT. Thank goodness that they do. And we know at this stage now that there are other options. Like I said, I take a bioidentical hormone only because I had been on birth control for so many years that I just felt like my body needed a break. And so with the bioidentical, which interestingly is still, they think, the HRT is synthetic. Well, yeah, we know that. But bioidentical kind of is too, because even though they're plant-based, they still have to kind of synthesize it to make it do what we need it to do. So I think that's an important distinction, right? So absolutely, the medical world, and I live in Rochester, Minnesota. You can't get any more medical world than here, right? They're just not trained in menopause unless you have a menopause specialist or you go to the menopause and aging department of a big facility like Mayo Clinic. So
Yeah, I was vegetarian with us like smidge of dairy, cheese. That's about it. Vegetarian for 30 plus years, I think. And during that, I went through menopause as well. I don't have hot flashes. I never have. And when I was premenopausal, maybe kind of crossing the threshold, a friend of mine was a Chinese medicine doctor, and I went to her, and I think that helped. I don't know. It's hard. You could have to roll the time back and then do it without it to see if that made a difference. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But then when last year, year and a half, 2 years ago, I felt like I wasn't getting enough nutritionally for me. And after eating in that manner for such a long time, right? And then I was paying more attention to my macros and making sure that I was using macros while I was vegetarian, and my weight dropped when I changed what I was eating, the proportions of between protein and carbs and fat that I was eating. And I changed that, and I figured out what my body was comfortable with. But then I felt like I wasn't getting enough. And then I switched to incorporating animal products in my diet. And I nap less.
You have more energy.
I do, yeah. I increase my protein, and my protein increased. And honestly, in order to hit those protein numbers, it's very difficult to do on a vegetarian diet without increasing your carbs. It's really hard. Yeah. So, but I think I'm fortunate. My estrogen is a little low. And so I have a cream that I'm really not good at being regular using. So that makes me wonder if it's really worthwhile. Maybe I need something else. And I've thought about the Dutch test before. My daughter did my daughter did a Dutch test at one point in time. And I thought, maybe this is being interesting to know.
I think something that you just said, Jean, you have the cream and you use it here and there, but is it worth it? I think just from the symptoms that we talked about before, what progesterone does, it's not going to hurt you. It's only going to
No,
be,
I'm thinking more the irregularity makes it not worth it. That part, right? So if I'm not regular using something, then maybe I'm not getting what I need out of it.
That's why I like the patch, because you every couple days, every 3 days or so you change it, but it is estrogen. I mean, it's manufactured, it's true estrogen, but I tried all the things. I tried the cream, I tried the pills, I tried drops, I tried everything, and nothing until I took the patch, the hot flashes, and I was getting like 30 a day.
Yeah.
Oh my good Lord.
Yeah. So I mean,
I
but if
understand.
you do take the estrogen, you have to take progesterone with it. Like you can't not take the progesterone and because that's where it becomes.
Yeah.
Well, the
Because like I said, I
doctor,
always say that I call them the kissing cousins. They go together.
yeah, my
They're not
doctor
twins.
only prescribed the estrogen for me for dryness. That was the only symptom that I seem to be showing. So I don't know about that.
These symptoms are like no joke. I mean, I remember before I started on the HRT, I felt like I was like sandpaper as I was walking.
Yeah.
Yep.
And those hot flashes, people who don't get them, they do not understand how lucky
No,
they are.
I'm so grateful.
Oh my
I
God. They are no joke. They are the worst.
When I finally decided that, when I finally realized it was time to do something, beyond what I was trying, like all the research and going to my regular doctor, my husband basically, I don't even remember what I had said or what had exactly happened. We were standing in the hallway from our bedroom into the living room, and he kind of grabbed me by my shoulders and he looked at me dead in the face and he goes, Denise, we need to figure this out. You're driving me crazy. He's like, we need to figure this out. You're not, something's not right. It's not normal. It's just like, and I mean, truly, I knew I was struggling, and I thought I was struggling on my own internally because that's what we do, right? But I think that we don't realize that our partners, our family, like our kids, they're actually going through it too because they're experiencing our moods and struggles too. I think that was, to me, that was really the biggest eye opener when I realized that it was affecting my husband as much as it was affecting me, just differently. So we have just a few more minutes before the top of the hour. Just wanted to ask if anybody had any other thoughts, any questions, how I can support them in any way. I'm here. That's what I do. And Lauren, yes, I can help you get the Dutch test.
Oh, that would be awesome. And is that the hormone? What is it? Happy Hormone Cottage? So did they?
We can get it someplace else. You can get it through them, but then you have to, basically they want you to do it through them and
like
pay for their
thing.
doctor to give you the, talk to you about the results.
So that's not worth, right? Okay, just kind of, but they are
right, because they can't send you anything. Well, they can send you the test. That's basically all they could potentially send you. Because of their limited,
you probably can order it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm just going to put this out there. Like I said, as a midlife longevity concierge, I help women to navigate menopause. I do it in several different ways. I work with women one-on-one. I have a membership that I'm starting. I call it, it really is, it's a course, but it really is best as a membership where people can actually talk to each other and really create the community that we're all looking for, you know, with these questions that we have. So those are two things that I offer. Anybody wants to continue a conversation, please let me know. You guys will all get the full video, and potentially you'll see on LinkedIn and Facebook, you'll see kind of snippets here and there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so
Wonderful.
much. Nice to meet
Yeah, thank you,
everybody.
Denise.
Nice to meet you too, Laura.
It was nice to meet you, Laura. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Ladies,
you.
thank you. I will see you.
Thanks, Denise. Thank you.
Stop recording.
Love
Have a
Travel
great
safely.
conversation.
Have a wonderful trip.